Hello, beautiful people. So today I want to talk about a very concerning topic, and that is the topic of voluntary assisted dying. It's concerning on a level that I do not believe people fully understand what that choice that they might be making or have made or are making, whether it is people in services like me that are assisting with this process by empowering choice and control. And I understand on one level why people would do that in a service perspective mindset, because that's always been who I have been, as in to empower choice and control. And also in relation to the souls that are choosing this as an option for them to end their life, which is basically can also be termed suicide. So why is this concerning? Well, for a few different reasons, but particularly from the perspective of soul and our spiritual connection to ourselves as soul, and what that has a massive impact when understood. So it's not anything to do with religion. Spirituality, in my view, is not religious. Spirituality is living life from your most authentic self, freer from the constraints of an ego or egoic self. So it is a raised consciousness and awareness and way of being that you live in the world from the place of love, as simply as that. So we need to, I feel, to address the topic of voluntary assisted dying. I think it's important to understand our existence on this earth as soul. And I believe this is becoming more learned and understood as people are more and more awakening from their slumber, from the illusions and the limitations that they believed themselves to be. And so, speaking about this topic, voluntary assisted dying, and why I feel it's concerning that this is becoming popular in a sense, becoming acceptable, more readily acceptable. But I think the lines have been blurred because there are some valid reasons for the thoughts for it, but there are some serious consequences if we follow through with that. So VAD, voluntary assisted dying, is a person's choice where they wish to end their life, generally because they perhaps maybe are facing a preventable death, but who says that it's not preventable? A medical system says that death is imminent, but that is not always true. And there is a quality of life that is lessened lessened in the sense of the pain and suffering that the physical body goes through, including the emotional aspects of that. And so I want to talk about the importance of what these experiences, why these experiences are our experiences as soul. So if I start with that perspective first, it is my belief through my own spiritual awakening, through the death of my son 9 years ago, that I actually moved through what I now know through the dark night of the soul was the death of my egoic self. That was a major death. It was a rite of passage that I went through. Didn't know that and understand that at the time, and have been on this, and that one experience being a very significant kick up the bum was my profound spiritual awakening into the truth of who I am. And then over time, over the last 9 years, and continuing, but not to the length or the depth of that particular experience, I have moved through many, many deaths, as I call them. And the many deaths are our experiences that we move through of challenge, of adversity, which are rites of passage, is my understanding, to transform through the pain and the suffering, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to understand the truth of what is actually being revealed to us in those moments. And when we're willing to face that fear in those moments, the mini deaths, the real actual deaths are those. That's the real death we move through in those experiences, which is leading us to the final ultimate death, which is an illusion when we take our last breath. Because in actual fact, the death is a transformation. And so we prepare. This life is in preparation and for that ultimate transformation into the afterlife. So as soul, we journey here. We choose and have chosen to go through certain experiences. And some of the experiences come up because we have unresolved grievances, emotional disturbances, through whatever that might be, that actually causes physical disease, which one says that we have the power to heal it when we actually look at the lesson and see what the emotional connection is. And most often we can, and people have, healed their terminal illness because they weren't willing to allow that fear of illusion, of dis-ease in the body, to take control. And so they too, as you will hear from many of them, experienced through that journey, that rite of passage of a terminal illness, experience profound spiritual awakening into the truth of who they are. These are the mini deaths as soul that we came here to experience. And some of those experiences has been a choice that is the way that we will leave this world. But it's not only teaching those individuals a lesson, but it also teaches, for those willing, the family and friends around that person in that experience, whether they're a carer or just a supportive family member. There's learnings for every single person in that experience. And so when we can understand that we are here as a soul to transform into a higher level of consciousness and realize that the experience perhaps of a terminal illness is a rite of passage, we need to understand and ask better questions as to why we are choosing VAD. So I want to talk about how VAD, like all the programming around grief and dying, where we have been programmed to fear death, fear dying, fear grieving, all of these experiences is just another form of programming, social engineering strategies from the corporations. I don't need to list and name them all, but it is connected to governments and pharmaceuticals and religion, institutions, and many more. The social engineering strategy, where they are aiming to take over control globally of each and every one of us through many different experiences where we give away our free will and choosing, giving permission. Just look at COVID as an example, giving permission to inject things to change our DNA, handing over control of our soul, our voice, our authenticity, our life, in this case with VAD. They are assisting us when we make the free will and the choice to end our pain and suffering through terminal illness, inevitable death. We are constantly being pushed to our limits, where we feel uncertain, unsafe, and in fear. This is the discomfort that none of us like, myself included. It was my experience through grief and loss for a short time that we then feel that we can't handle life. We feel powerless, and that the only solution to our pain and suffering is that we would rather die than stay in this world. We need to look at this and our experiences more objectively and find the true source of the problem, the root cause, as I say. Look at the root cause of the fear and what has caused the dis-ease within our body. To look at our pain and suffering with real eyes and ask the question, what is the learning here? As I did with in my grief, what was my learning? To have, as a mother, to have to go through the experience of my son no longer now being here. What was the learning for me the year before, where I supported him 24/7, day in, day out, to try and keep him alive? There was a higher learning. I didn't know that at the time. I was just doing the best I could to find answers. It wasn't until after he passed that the real truth-seeking began, where I started asking deeper questions to seek the understanding of our existence in this life, because that just didn't seem fair at the time. It felt really cruel. And I thought, what the frig did I come here to do this for? Why are we here? There has to be a higher meaning. And there is. There is. That was my rite of passage. And so is death and dying. It is a rite of passage. Even in terminal illness and when it feels inevitable, please ask the question, what is the lesson? What is the learning here? Ask your higher self to show you the truth, because your higher self is there waiting for you to ask. Be willing to walk the rite of passage through whatever dis-ease you are moving through, and know that VAD is not the way. I teach all the time that our biggest fears, through the challenges and life's adversities, those real big ones, even the mini ones, the little emotional grievances that disturb us on a daily basis, they're the nuggets, the golden nuggets, the gifts of opportunity to transform out of your fear, out of the limitation, into the most highest divine version of yourself. That's why you're here. Not only this, there's another area of my experience that I learnt with the power to heal my body. We have the power to heal anything, disease that comes into our body. And yes, as a soul, sometimes it is the inevitable path, because that is what the soul chose as a way to leave this physical body. But all of our diseases, whether small or great, I know we have the power to heal ourselves. I've done it many times over, but done it significantly twice, where I've had a medical diagnosis and I just blatantly, I suppose you could say, chose not to accept as my what's the word? As my outcome. The outcome I chose was to see that I was and had the power to transform by communicating with my body, with my cells, and meditating and visualizing, because we are energy, and seeing that my body was perfectly whole and complete. And I defied what doctors were telling me was an ultimate worst outcome. I'm doing it currently with my menopause, not taking anything of a medical substance to alter my body, because menopause is also an example of a rite of passage. I had my skin all flare up on my face recently, and it lasted for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I just kept visually seeing my body as perfect and whole, and knowing that it would pass, and it did, with minimal discomfort. The worst was that it was a physical appearance that I didn't really like when looking in the mirror, that I was conscious of. People could see it when I was in the streets, and you feel it when people just look at you. It's like you got egg on your face. We always have the power to heal ourselves, even through terminal illness. And all of this is just another level of programming with the corporations, demonic energies, that is all coming to the surface. The truth is being revealed. Where we have been led to believe that we can't handle life. That we must numb ourselves. And when we're numbing ourselves, whether it's through alcohol and a lot of these toxic movies, it has all got a demonic energy surrounding it. It's just all contributing to the density of our body and keeping us stuck, including all the distractions in social media, constant overwhelm, constant fear-mongering. It just keeps coming up in another narrative. The latest narrative is we're not going to have petrol to drive around, and that is valid in some ways. But we don't have to fall into the fear with that. My response was to that, well, okay, if I can't drive, I can't drive, so be it. Does it mean I can't work? Well, you can actually find ways to work. In actual fact, I'm quite happy if I never had to work, just to earn an income to put food on my table. So I'm not fazed. Everything is a choice. We can keep choosing to latch into the fear, or we can actually defy it, what is being presented. Self-doubt is a biggie. But all of this is to seemingly have us feel as if there is no way out. No way out of our pain and suffering. And in this case, choosing VAD. But in actual truth, what are they actually choosing? In fact, none of us enjoy pain and discomfort. We're always, whenever that arises, we're always looking for ways to numb it, run from it, ignore it. But if there's something for us to see and to learn from, it will keep coming and presenting itself to us until we look at the fear that we're avoiding. The soul journey is significant. Our experiences are our gifts of opportunity to transform out of the fear and the limitation, to understand what perhaps the emotional connection is to those experiences, because they are connected to emotional dysfunction. So I encourage you to ask, what is the lesson here? And know that you have the power to heal yourself. And the only way to know fear, that fear isn't real, is to let it come and get you. So VAD, when we can understand that we are here as a soul and the implications from that choice, what that does, choosing death over life, this is just another corporation strategy to get humanity to choose of their own free will and sever their hearts from their soul, their heart connection to the universe. And effectively, we are handing over our soul to the interference, the demonic energies. It is the demonic energy that is looking. This is just another way for the demonic energy to tap into a way that they can get us to give away our free will and choice through death and suicide. And with that, we hand over our soul. That is a really serious implication for one, the person that may be choosing that, and the people that are assisting with that. And because why I even would like to add what is actually coming up now is the people that have actually gone through this experience without enough knowledge, the ones that have assisted, the ones that are now left here, they're going through similar experiences that I went through with suicide loss, as in they're now in so much turmoil because they assisted in something that now they're questioning, was that the right path? And now they're in a lot of anxiety and grief with the grief that they're moving through. So this is now their journey of experience that is not wrong or right. It's not, don't see it that way. But they have contributed to something that innately within themselves they feel that perhaps it wasn't the right path, and they would be correct. But they don't need to guilt and blame themselves for anything, because again, it just goes back to, okay, what is the soul lesson here? Okay, I might not have, maybe it wasn't the best choice. So how do we move through compassion for ourselves in that experience? How can I find forgiveness for myself and all others connected to that experience? and transform that experience into something far greater, a higher learning. That's what I really encourage. If you're that person that is listening to this today, it's okay. Because you would have made a choice based on the level of knowledge that you had at the time, but now you're being encouraged to see a greater understanding to that experience. And if you can learn from that and grow from that and evolve into a better, your most authentic self from that, then that's a good thing. So as with all pain and suffering, it's important to understand and get to the root cause of why that has come into your experience. And transform whatever it is that you are moving through with a terminal illness, and understand the truth of that. Why did your soul choose that as an experience? Because there's something to transform through it. It doesn't mean it's easy, because that's the mini death. That's the death that you will go through. To let go, let the egoic self die unto itself. That's the death. That's the part that we are not willing to face. But we just have to remember that that fear is the illusion until you can see the truth. When you are willing, when you are open and commune with your higher self to guide and lead you, because it is there waiting. You just have to ask. The real death is the death of the egoic self through all of those mini death experiences that cause pain and suffering. You're not powerless. You are powerful. You are divine. This is what humanity is all going through, with the world in its dysfunction at the moment. It's not all doom and gloom, because we must have this dysfunction so we can return to function, which is the truth of our most authentic selves, living, being from a place of pure love. These experiences allow us to transform. And so to assist people, or to choose VAD, in my view, is not the way. And there are many. I'm going to be the lone wolf at the moment. And it's taken me courage to speak up, because I am the odd one that doesn't see it as everybody else does. But it must be. I must begin planting this seed. I know I'm here to do that. 100%. And so I encourage you to realize that fear is the inversion of love. It is the false reality. It's not the way. It's not the way of the future. Please discern for yourself the truth, your truth. My information today is to encourage you to find your truth. I'm not telling you how it is. This is the seed that will hopefully open your heart and your eyes to see the truth. And hopefully you will see that maybe your experience, if facing mortality or going through terminal illness, choose for it to be a rite of passage and transform your experience so that you can, once transformed, so you can lead others too. Namaste.